Hello there, boys and girls. Adam Nicholas here for WhatCulture Wrestling. Yes, I am standing in for your boy Adam Clery because he just so happens to be busy today. However, I have heard a few whispers as to why he's busy, and much like Fleetwood Mac's second best album, comments below on your thoughts on that one. These are just rumours, but apparently he might be having a very specific conversation with a certain pizza brand regarding a very specific pizza type. I can only speculate at this point. That's just what I've heard. No truth in this whatsoever, and I cannot confirm or deny that, but that is the word on the street. But for real though, yes, for those who are missing Adam Clery, don't panic. You will still be getting NXT, you will still be getting ups and downs, and this will just be a one-off. He'll be back next week, so don't you worry about that. And in fairness, some of us actually had to walk so that Adam Clery could run with the ball and score all the touchdowns and all that jargon with this show. Hello there, wrestling fans. Adam from WhatCulture here, and it's that time of the week once again where we bring you all of the ups and all of the downs from this week's episode of NXT. Anyway, you didn't come here to hear some discount Daniel Bryan talk rubbish about his past achievements. You came here for NXT ups and downs. So why wait any longer? Let's up those downs for this week's episode of NXT. So we kick things off with Danny Birch versus Karrion Kross. Danny Birch was pissed off that Karrion Kross had beaten up his mate Oney Lorcan, so he was coming for revenge. And he started this match at a furious pace. He was desperate to get his hands on Kross, but Karrion Kross is a badass, powerful monster, and hurting him does not seem to work for anybody, as it happens. Kross basically no-sold all of Birch's attacks, even to the point where he just looked at him while he had him in the crossface as if to say, "Don't think so, mate," and then ultimately would choke Birch out and leave him in a heap on the floor. Yeah, this vengeance mission did not quite turn out perhaps how Danny Birch had envisioned this. Karrion Kross, though, is an absolute monster, and I'm into it. Now, Danny Birch may have been the meaty sacrifice, that is a questionable choice of words, to get this vehicle moving forward, but ultimately Keith Lee would come out and go face to face with Karrion Kross, although he wouldn't technically. Kross escaped the ring, but then basically Lee said he had the contract from Regal, he was desperate to have the match at TakeOver 30 with Karrion Kross, and he signed it and has basically said he will not touch Karrion Kross until that match. He made a promise. Kross would then subsequently sign the document as well. It was passed back into the ring by Scarlett Bordeaux. But this wasn't the end of it, because when Keith Lee opened up the contract to have a look, a goddamn fireball! A fireball in the actual face, out of a contract. This was so dumb. It was ridiculous, and I bloody loved it, you know. I love a bit of hokey crap like this, and this mystery, this weird sort of mystique that these two have continues to grow. Yes, it was a fireball out of a contract, but hey, I'm easily pleased. The whole thing gets an up from me, and I cannot wait for this match. So while Keith Lee was busy sorting out being blinded, we got this split screen as a match happened between Drake Maverick and Killian Dane. A random match, and it was random for very good reason, because it wasn't really a match you could rate. It was just there to move the action on. I mean, literally, Keith Lee was being tended to on one screen, the match was happening on the other. There was an advert around it as well. It couldn't have been more chaotic. Eventually, though, the ambulance pulled away. Undisputed Era pulled up in their car, and the literal vehicle for moving the storyline on had arrived, and they were not in the mood, and they meant business. As if Drake Maverick and Killian Dane hadn't already been drowned out by the fact they had a split screen and advertisements over the top of this match, Undisputed Era then came to the ring and just kicked the absolute shit out of both of them just for the fun of it. They weren't in any mood, because this was obviously here. The whole thing really was just to lead into Adam Cole cutting a promo on Pat McAfee. Adam Cole was clearly incensed by everything that had happened last week with Pat McAfee, and for anybody who doesn't buy McAfee nearly kicking his head off, he was the punter of the decade. Of course it makes sense. But Adam Cole said, "You want to come into my world and play wrestling? Well, at TakeOver 30, I am going to whoop that ass." Look, I don't care what you think about this. I am fascinated to see what happens with this. Celebrity versus wrestler. Good stuff for me. You can't really rate the match, I don't think, that was between Drake Maverick and Killian Dane, but all of this stuff gets an up. Next up, we had a quick promo from Kushida, literally the happiest man in wrestling, who's just happy to be here, but did say he's going to win this triple threat match tonight and get into that North American title match. Good stuff, but it did lead in to our next match of the night. Tyler Breeze was looking to get a modicum of revenge after the attack by Legato del Fantasma last week on himself and Dango, so he had a one-on-one with Escobar. Escobar, to be honest, had the majority of the match, but just as Breeze looked like he might have been making a comeback, well, this is why you've got bodyguards. The Fantasma boys came flying down to the ring, got on the side, distracted Breeze long enough, got the Phantom Driver from Escobar. 1, 2, 3, the end of this match, but we weren't done there. Legato del Fantasma wanted to make a mark on Breeze. They were going to beat him down and beat the loving crap out of him. But who should turn up but Dango with one arm in a sling, one elbow completely wrapped up, and carrying a mop, which he sort of snapped the handle off and left the head for dead. Kind of harsh. Thought this was PG. It's disgraceful. Decapitating a mop, who knew? Anyway, got in the ring, and as it happened, that wasn't enough. He then got his ass kicked, which felt like a real downer. But as it happens, someone else came and made the save, and it was Isaiah Swerve Scott. Flew down to the ring, helped clean house. The Fantasma boys went scurrying off, and ultimately, I guess altogether, the segment gets an up, but it's just a bit of a, it was a bit of a meh up. You know what I mean? I don't really know what they're doing with Dango and Breeze. I like the other guys, but it is what it is. While that all might have been a bit meh, the Dakota Kai promo was anything but. She says the captain is going to become the next NXT Women's Champion. I'll be honest, it'd be hard pressed to argue with that. I'm really pleased to see her in this slot. She is bringing it right now. Everything she's doing is great. And that wasn't the only good promo to go with this match on this particular evening, so let's not give this an up just yet, but then let's talk about the Io Shirai promo just a little bit's time, which was even better. Now, does this scream intimidation to you? Because I've got a funny feeling that it doesn't. Less so, again, when the man who's wearing it is like, my name's Ridge Holland, and I'm a big guy, and I used to do rugby, and that lad's really small, and I'm gonna beat him because I'm bigger than him, and I'm big. Now, alright, yes, I might be being a little bit harsh on poor Ridge Holland there, but I feel like this act might work in NXT UK, but it doesn't feel like a good fit, in my opinion, for NXT. They're trying to tell me that he's big, and even to the point where they've kind of rephrased the Brock Lesnar line, and it's like, the pain is coming. I'm bringing the pain. The pain is coming. Like, nah. Not for me, Jeff. Down. Next up, we had Mia Yim versus Indy Hartwell. A distracted Mia Yim, I should point out, because she was taking care of her partner Keith Lee, who'd been put in an ambulance. They'd gone all across together. She was saying she was trying to focus on the match, but she'd been looking after him. So there was a little asterisk there, and it did kind of play into the match in the end. This one kind of went 50-50 throughout. Hartwell kind of taking advantage of the fact that Yim wasn't quite there mentally in the match. So a lot of offense from Hartwell. She looked like she might have even been on the verge of possibly getting a distraction upset. Hartwell actually did great to do. She did Keith Lee's taunt in the middle of the match, wound Mia Yim up. Probably wasn't the best idea, because it would result in Mia Yim getting this, what I can only describe as like a super cool submission finish. She managed to get Indy Hartwell face down, legs round her head, and sort of like a Fujiwara, but reversed the arm up to get the tap. It was great. Cool submission, new move, and she got the victory. Indy Hartwell, of course, being allowed to kind of look decent as well, which is, I guess, what they're trying to do with her. So all in all, it's another up. Then we had a quick promo from Finn Balor, who basically said he doesn't need to politic his way into matches. That is a man who the Office want on TV, and therefore they'll put in their great stuff. This Finn has really found his character since returning to NXT. And following that, quickly, we got the breakdown segment from ESPN, I believe it was, with Triple H talking about the challenge to Pat McAfee for against the match he's going to have against Adam Cole at NXT TakeOver 30. All this very good stuff, but let's move into the next match of the night, and that was Damien Priest taking on the thick boy Bronson Reed. Reed was going up against Damien Priest, another guy who we've watched kind of grow into that role of the next big star to come into NXT. The guy Reed is closely following behind, let's be honest. And the two put on a great match, a lovely bit of one-upsmanship throughout this. Two big boys, bum and meat, as Big E would say, and it was great. But with the athleticism as well, let's not forget that. After a ton of creative offense from these two, we got to the finish as Bronson Reed was up on the top, went to land a big splash on Damien Priest. A mild botch, a little bit too quick he was with the jump. Priest barely got out of the way, clipped the back of his head, but it rolled into the finish, or what we thought was going to be the finish. Priest turning up looking for the reckoning, but Reed would counter with a jackknife pin and get the 1, 2, 3, got the big W. Now I realise you might be thinking, oh, that's not great for Damien Priest, doesn't put him in good stand going into this match. I disagree. I think Bronson Reed needed this W a little bit more. It kind of shows us that he's got the potential, and there was the fluke element to the win, which always helps. Bronson Reed a star in the making. Damien Priest, though, they're getting us to look away from him, which might be worth remembering later on if he does indeed end up wearing that North American Championship. I'm not saying he will, I'm just saying keep an eye on him. Either way, altogether, this one gets an up. Is that ever a bad Io Shirai promo? Every time we see a new video from Io Shirai, she finds a creative way to sort of present herself to the audience, and she's created this little mini world that she lives in, this real mini cinematic world that she's presented in, that quite honestly, I'd quite like to go and spend some time in. This is world building a la Tarantino. I'm not even joking about that. She spends time doing promos underwater. She spends time standing on top of high buildings in lovely lighting and doing all these cool things that she does. Oh, and I should point out, she didn't just look great in everything she was doing, she sounded great too, because she said Dakota Kai wasn't in her head. All she did was piss her off. Oh, I'm excited for this match. Regardless, this one gets an up for me, obviously, because it's great stuff. Now let's talk about someone else who's doing some good promo work right about now. Yes, of course, it was Cameron Grimes who was back for another promo. This guy is a massive, massive dickhead, and I love it. I absolutely love it. He's so good at what he does. They've really found their stride with him. He was talking up his chances of getting into that takeover match for the North American Championship. And was he right? Well, I guess we'll have to find out later on in this very episode. Now, as a man who tends to spend his time doing the hidden meanings behind attires from certain pay-per-view videos, I obviously appreciate some good clothes. And let me just tell you, in this next match, in the tag team match that we got in the women's division, we got some absolutely magnificent attire choices. And they were so good, in fact, that because I've been told contractually, I'm obliged to tell you that hashtag on Thursdays we wear yellow, this is going to get the yellow jacket for today. A yellow jacket for some wonderful attire-related praise, I guess. Let's talk about it, shall we? We have the newly formed Robert Stone brand team of Aaliyah and Mercedes Martinez going one-on-one with Kacy Catanzaro and Kayden Carter. And can I just start by saying, Kayden Carter, Kacy Catanzaro, I would take my hat off to you if it wasn't for stupid hair underneath. Beautiful attire, this all black gimmick, blue straps on it, yellow bits. Honestly, this is how you make a tag team feel legit, and if indeed they are going to move forward, you can tell these two have tried to work on it. I will say the entrance needs a little bit more work, didn't quite get it right for me, but I thought the look was brilliant, and that's what we want in wrestling. And speaking of looks in wrestling, let's talk about the Robert Stone brand as well. Because you see, while Mercedes Martinez might have joined the RBS, she certainly doesn't feel like part of it. The other two are together and she's just there. And that was brought out in the attires. Robert Stone brand were all in a red, black and white setup, mostly red with little bits of black and little bits of white. Both Robert Stone and Aaliyah looked like that, but Mercedes Martinez was mostly black with little trims of red and white. I'm sorry, but if that isn't just the foreshadowing and the story about what's going on with these three, I don't know what is. If you don't think wrestling attires matter in wrestling, you're wrong. This actually ended up being a pretty decent enough match considering the teams involved trying to showcase their new team abilities. In particular, KC Squared, as I'm going to call them because it's too long to say the other words. They really have worked on their teams work together. They have loads of slick moves, lots of sort of really good double teams. Then honestly, the whole thing between them was very fluid. But even Aaliyah and Mercedes did seem to have figured out some kind of moves between themselves. Genuinely looked like a good little match. But the idea here was to showcase Mercedes, and that's exactly what happened. She was the one who was presented as the powerhouse in the match, and she was the one who also got the victory for the Robert Stone brand. She hit the air raid crash, got the 1, 2, 3, but we weren't finished there, because this is NXT, of course, and somebody has to run down to the ring and interfere with business, because of course, shenanigans. And of course, that someone just so happened to be a very disgruntled Rhea Ripley. You'll remember Mercedes Martinez costing her the match against Dakota Kai last week and her chance to get a shot at Io Shirai. No less, she wasn't happy, came down to attack Mercedes Martinez, but she got outnumbered by the Robert Stone brand, despite them looking slightly off the same page again. Never mind, that wasn't important, because while Ripley was getting beaten down, she then had the save. Christ, I know, so many run-ins at this point, I don't even know what to tell you. But Shotzi Blackheart couldn't help herself. She came flying down to the ring. She helped clear off the Robert Stone brand, and a little alliance forming between Rhea Ripley and Shotzi Blackheart. Don't be surprised if we get a tag match between those guys. Ultimately, this was kind of repeated. You know, we saw Swerve already make the save, and I know that it's not their fault, but it just, you know, and NXT does get criticised unfairly for the formulaic approach. I am still going to give all of this an up because, let's be honest, those attires alone deserved about 2 ups. Nevertheless, I've been quite restrained, I think. But maybe just less formula stuff, man. Try and come up with new things. This all really, really stinks of Shawn Michaels, and I don't like it. And touching back on the subject of attires, let's just take a quick detour to the Gargano household. We got a promo with Johnny and Candice, both in their matching, well, I say matching, one pink, one blue power couple tracksuits. This is great stuff. It's designed to get right into the skin of everybody around. Johnny basically talking up his chances in that North American title match when he indeed gets there. I love this, you hate it, and it's really good because you hate it. That's what we're here for. And there's a great picture of Doc Hendricks on the wall, so I'm all for it. That was followed Followed quickly by a repeat promo that we've seen already from Timothy Thatcher. They're kind of all a bit too samey at the minute for me, these. I like them to begin with. They've gone a bit stale. We need a little change. There needs to be a bit more in them for me to really engage. I will say, though, I do like Timothy Thatcher. Don't want to dunk on him too much. Anyway, shall we move on to the final match of the night, the main event, a triple threat between Cameron Grimes, Kushida, and a mystery opponent. So before we dive into the match, we should probably talk about the reveal of who the mystery opponent was. As it happens, it turned out it was Velveteen Dream, which a few years back, or a year back or so, might not have been such a big deal. Right now, though, I don't know how to feel about this, because obviously potentially controversial, because there's been a lot of allegations surrounding Velveteen Dream. We won't go into them. You came here for an NXT review, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention it and say that as a little footnote, I'm not sure if putting him back in the spotlight right now, the way that AEW did with Sammy Guevara, is the right idea. That's just my thoughts on it. Now I'm going to just review the match, and that's the end of it. As far as triple threat matches go, this one was really good, actually. It was slick, it was flowing, lots of action between all three guys, but notably, for quite a bit of it, Velveteen Dream was kept on the outside by the two guys in the middle. I wonder if that was a creative choice in terms of trying to keep him out of the spotlight as much. Be hard to speculate at this point, but he didn't feature too much apart from towards most of the finish, where basically Dream looked like he might have been heading towards the victory until Kushida flipped the tables, got him in the hoverboard lock, and just as all that was happening, Cameron Grimes out of nowhere with the cave-in on Kushida, rolls out the Velveteen Dream, gets the 1-2-3, Cameron Grimes gets the W, and he is heading into that match for the North American title, and I tell you what, this was definitely the right decision. I will say though, Kushida also was presented pretty strong in the match and almost tapped out a former North American title holder, which was great, and actually ended up feeding into the post-match as Dream completely snapped. It looks like they're going to go full heel with Velveteen Dream. He beat the living crap out of Kushida until he was confronted by the Prince, Finn Balor. I suggested whoever had lost this match but by not being pinned or submitted would be the one to face Balor in a singles match to then determine where they ended up. Well, of course, these two ended up meeting once again, a match that should have happened a while back but didn't, and now is obviously back on the cards. All in all, I'm going to give this section an up, particularly because Cameron Grimes deserves to be where he is. Big fan of that choice. And yeah, all in all, not a bad little episode of NXT. So there it is, friends. Those are all of the ups and downs for this week's episode of NXT Ups and Downs. Adam Clery will, of course, be back next week. We have one more week, and then we got TakeOver 30 to look forward to. That is going to be very interesting indeed. But for the meantime, let us know your thoughts about everything from this video in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and share. Hit the old subscribe button if you haven't already. You can follow WhatCulture on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. You can also find the original article for this piece at whatculture.com, I believe, /WWE. I think Jamie Kennedy is writing that. Check that one out as well. You can also follow me on Twitter if that is indeed your thing, at It's Adam Nicholas. Follow Adam Cleary as well while they're on. Do a bit of plug at Adam Cleary, C-L-E-R-Y, there it is. See, not used to doing that. I've been Adam Nicholas. Thank you very much for having me on this week's episode of NXT Ups and Downs. As I say, your main man will be back next week. Always nice to come back to the house that, well, let's be honest, he built it, but I bought the ingredients. I don't know. Who cares? Anyway, goodbye.